Okay. Well, welcome to Pitch Day for 500K. My name is Jeff Sailing, and I'm one of the founders here at Startup NV and a managing general partner in the funds that do our investing. Okay. Well,
Sorry. Go ahead. No, you're fine.
okay. Today we're going to hear from, I'm getting an echo.
Oh yeah, you might be.
Yep. So we want to turn off your speakers. Today we're going to hear from Deborah and Mark at CMedics. And then we'll hear from Daniel, who's turning his speakers off right now at Evoke. And congratulations to both companies and the founders. They represent the top candidates from a process that we make them all go through to share their slides and a lot of back and forth. It's pretty rigorous, and there's probably 10 to 15 companies that apply for each one that gets to stand up here and pitch every other Wednesday. So congrats for getting through that process, and thanks for going through it. Really appreciate it. For those new to our program, Startup NV is Nevada's statewide nonprofit startup accelerator and incubator. We operate 7 free entrepreneurship programs supported by government grants and corporate sponsors. We get additional financial support in the form of donated equity from the successful accelerator companies that get investment from us. And we also get profit sharing and fee sharing from our affiliated investment funds and syndicate. Our fortnightly pitch day offers companies the opportunity to join our accelerator program with an investment from Fund NV, our investor syndicate, plus matching funds from Nevada's SSBCI program. Since 2021, we've directly invested a little over $14 million in 28 startups. If you do the math, that's where we get the pitch day for 500K. These startup investments have grown in value to just a little under $50 million. So it's a little over 3x return on the investment so far. And we've also returned about 30% of that $14 million in the form of cash or shares, public company shares, to our LPs, which VC geeks out there will know is DPI, distributed paid-in capital, which is the gold standard for venture investors. That set of statistics makes us a top 1% fund. Now, albeit it's on $14 million and not $1.4 billion, but still pretty good for a new group under 5 years of investing. So we're just getting started, and we're pretty excited about all that stuff. Now for the legal disclaimer. Today's pitches are for investment from our legally compliant venture funds and syndicate, restricted to SEC accredited and Nevada certified investors. We welcome the community to attend for educational purposes, both here live in the room and online. But these pitches are not a general solicitation for investment. They're not a general solicitation for investment. Special thanks to our sponsors, the City of Las Vegas, Clark County, and GoEd. Some quick housekeeping. We are live on Zoom, on YouTube, and we are recording. Each company gets 2 recordings, the public pitch and a private pitch. Now, we already heard from Deborah that she does not want her pitch shared, so it won't be. The 2 pitches are one, that unless you tell us like Deborah, it goes on our YouTube channel, and it's from the time you introduce yourself till we get to the Q&A. The only people that get to hear the Q&A are the people who are here live tonight, and our LPs, who generally will watch it later. Founders, expect to get some post-event contacts. So usually a few hundred people watch these things after we've had our event here tonight. And some of those contacts are awesome. And some of them are kind of weird. So be patient with the weird ones, and please respond professionally. The rules for the show tonight are 10 minutes to pitch. Then once you're done with that, another 15 minutes of Q&A. Questions go in the chat. Leith is going to be asking our questions tonight, as Maggie and Kara are in DC. So thanks for coming out tonight. And Deborah, if you're ready, you can start sharing your slides and we can get started.
Awesome. There we go.
All right, Deborah, take it away whenever you're ready.
Hey, I want
Erica's keeping the time.
say it's such an honor to be here, and I want to thank you so much. Okay, got it. I want to thank you for the opportunity to present, and I have to know, I have a love for Las Vegas. We have our office there. We are looking for a headquarters, which will mean many jobs and many people. And I think this, as a worldwide play, should be a Nevada company. Let's set up Silicon Valley in Nevada and make all this happen. What we do is we do non-invasive heart failure. Okay, basically, right now, the way the industry works, and I'll make it very clear, a guy by the name of Bill came into our office in Las Vegas, and he said, I just had a heart attack last week, and everything says that my doctor says I'm fine. I was in the hospital. I just left my cardiologist, and I'm absolutely fine. But I understand you have this non-invasive thing that did a speech or something. And he said, and I want to get tested. Well, in Las Vegas, we have our engineering staff, and they love guinea pigs. So they were so excited to get to test this person. They put him on our machine, and basically he has no cardiac outflow. Okay, in other words, his heart is clogged. We can't tell how much, but we can tell you that he's probably doesn't have enough blood going to his organs. To make a long story short, we called him and said, Bill, don't move. We're sending you to the hospital. He said, no, I'm fine. I feel great. He had gone to the hospital. 3 levels of his heart were completely clogged. He was not getting enough blood flow. We're changing cardiology from them basically going and weighing themselves at home, okay, to making it proactive and all remote, so that remote heart failure can become a home treated disease versus currently as a hospital that's responsible and many of the dangers. But more important, Bill would have died within 24 hours. Okay, our objective is to save lives. I've been through this. My father had 5 heart attacks growing up and died very young in his 60s. And so we are absolutely making a difference in cardiology by taking a $75,000 procedure and making it $100. Okay, and long term it'll probably be diagnostic, but as we speak, it is an incredibly powerful, and I can tell you more people than not have addressed our issues, and we need this technology. It's not like a normal technology. I've been a part of exits before. This one is something that is critical to the saving of lives for many different diseases. We've got a team that is incredible. Like I've had 6 exits. EJ is a ultra conservative CFO, but he's got a Stanford MBA, and the man is absolutely brilliant. And then, of course, Dr. Marco Grifo, which you're going to hear for shortly. He doesn't tell you this, that he's a genius. Okay, he's a PhD in biomedical and engineering, and I can't tell you enough good about him. Erin is 20 years in marketing, and she's very powerful in terms of strategic marketing. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Marco Grifo, who is not only a genius, but he understands, and his passion runs just, as deep as mine. So with that, Dr. Mark.
Thank you, Debs. So what we're talking about today is heart failure. Heart failure is a $43 billion crisis responsible for the largest healthcare costs, the largest number of unnecessary readmissions, and the largest number of healthcare fines in the US healthcare system. It is a financial black hole all by itself. Next slide. The way that we monitor heart failure at the moment is either we send somebody home to step on a scale, or when they're in the hospital, they need to end up in the cardiac catheterization lab. The number one reason that these patients end up back in the hospital is due to fluid overload. You've all seen them walking around with the swollen ankles and the pulmonary congestion. Some of these patients can end up back in the hospital 5, 10, even 15 times in a given calendar year at just a regular cost of between $15,000 and $20,000 without any kind of invasive intervention. Next slide, please. On the left-hand side, you can see a patient in ICU with a central line placed. On the right-hand side, you can see our non-invasive solution. It is a cardioplethysmograph hemodynamic monitor. We are able to give you most of the same information with that balloon inside the heart, and we can give it to you non-invasively. Next slide, please. Our non-invasive device consists of a single strip electrode going down the center of the chest, connected via a wire to a medical-grade tablet. What we do is we inject a small amount of current into the chest with a known voltage, measure the resistance or impedance, and then using a highly proprietary multidimensional algorithm, we're able to give you a set of complex hemodynamic data, and that basically allows a cardiologist to tell basically exactly what's going on with the pump and the pipes. Next slide, please. The innovative edge. As I mentioned, we have a proprietary algorithm that allows us to provide non-invasive stroke volume, non-invasive cardiac output, non-invasive contractility, and basically tell you how hard the heart is pumping without putting anything inside the body. We have a proven regulatory strategy. Of keynote, the FDA has mandated that you must use our electrode with our technology, which sets up the very lucrative razor and razor blade fiscal model within the clinical marketplace. We have a bibliography of more than 100 peer-reviewed papers across science, medicine, and engineering, and our database basically was over 12,000 patients that allows us to form this algorithm. We have a greater than 90% sensitivity and specificity correlation against the gold standard, which is thermodilution. Next slide, please. So in the competitive marketplace, the only real player in this particular space is CardioMEMS. CardioMEMS is a company that invented a small pulmonary artery transducer. It requires a surgical procedure for implantation within the pulmonary artery. It is a surgical procedure. It costs $20,000 and it is not without risk. However, this is the only technology that is moving the needle in relation to stopping unnecessary readmissions at the moment. We provide the same level of fluid monitoring non-invasively that CardioMEMS does. At its simplest level, we provide a biomedical technology solution tailored for one of the world's largest chronic patient populations with a predictive index for the #1 reason that these patients end up back in the hospital. Of note, the day that CardioMEMS got their 510K, they were bought by St. Jude for $400 million. That represents now the floor of where this industry is going, and everybody recognizes the value, especially within cardiology, of non-invasive fluid monitoring. Next slide. So our go-to-market strategy effectively represents a 70-30 model. We are starting with cardiology outpatient clinics, 30% inpatient. We have identified 11 hospital systems across the US where we've identified key opinion leaders who are ready to go and initially adopt this technology. From there, we will be branching out into the pre-hospital care market and then into the very lucrative home health care market as well. There are components of this that we can explain a little bit more, but that's the overall go-to-market strategy. Next slide. So as I mentioned, the fluid component is absolutely critical. Of one component within our FDA filing, due to the strength of our data, the FDA has given us a catch-all for any patient with fluid management problems. That means physicians and clinicians can use this technology all the way from end-stage renal disease with dialysis patients, recurrent dehydration with home healthcare patients, and then all the way from the emergency department through to the ICU and the step-down units, allowing us to reduce hospital stays, reduce complications, and reduce the number of days in ICU. Next slide, please. In its simplest level, we have the ability to provide a biomedical technology solution that ranges and goes all the way through the hospital system from ICU to the emergency department with a strategic roadmap going into the home healthcare market as well. What we are planning to do is to adjust and approach the home healthcare market, next slide, and do exactly for home healthcare what the CBG market did for diabetic monitoring. I believe we can approach fluid in the same way and introduce a small patch-based system with a small amount of education that can make a dramatic reduction in the level of unnecessary readmissions for heart failure patients, which will decrease costs, contain those costs for not only the home healthcare market, but for the insurance companies, and improve quality of life for patients. Next slide. Of note, we already have a pre-approved reimbursement code to be used in the outpatient setting, and then some of these costs will also be rolled in with the DRG in the in-hospital system. We've already gotten approval with Aetna, the Blues in Florida, and a number of the other insurance companies. Next slide. And we've already talked about the competitive barriers, the early market view, sales and distribution. We will launch with our own small direct sales force and with strategic distribution, and then we are aligning ourselves with a large strategic player that will be able to roll this out nationwide. Next slide. As I mentioned, we are currently targeting the pre-hospital market and the in-hospital market. Over the next 2 years, our go-to-market strategy for the home healthcare industry will basically mirror what CBG has done for diabetes. We will roll out initially with a small PDM, and then over the course of 18 to 20 months, we will actually roll our system in with the iOS to be able to ensure that we can access the medical features on the iPhone. Next slide. I'm going to
And
turn
with
it over to Debs, and she can address the deal terms and the exit potential.
Thank you so much, Mark. I also want to tell you that we've got tremendous or 120 million of revenue that has already been identified and pretty much ready to roll out with paid pilots. We've raised $7.5 million. Right now, we're looking for $5 million. I think what's very important to us is the making Nevada a new Silicon Valley. Okay, we need to hire jobs. We need a lot of people, and we'd like to make our headquarters in Nevada. And that will mean a tremendous amount of data and also leveraging the press to let Nevada understand that they are a critical
Thank you, Deborah.
technology partner.
That is time.
Okay,
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Deborah. Yeah, we're at time. So first of all, thanks for that. That was fast and very efficient. So thank you for that. So just a few questions. If you don't mind, Deborah, if you'll go back to the to your deal flows, I mean your ask slide, which has the deal itself. We'll start there.
Yes.
All right. So you've raised about $7.5 million to date. The current raise is $5 million. Have you set a valuation yet?
Yes. We've actually we got it at 15 million. We got it very low because we're very interested in strategic partners. Okay,
All right,
we're
so
interested in the right strategic partners. So 15 million pre-money.
15 million pre, and you've raised just over 7.5. All right. So in terms of revenue, completely pre-revenue, there's been no revenue generated to date. You've got some targeted, but no revenue to date.
No, we've just got incredible interest, and we do have hospitals calling us saying, "Doesn't the FDA realize we have to have this? We're losing lives every day." And it's the frustration within the medical community from not getting our device. It's not like any other exit I've ever had. They want the device. They understand that they absolutely need it to save lives. It's not like an Apple Watch. It's not like it's very detailed. And I think one of the things that Mark might have touched on is the fact that it's the algorithm is like a rolling algorithm. Okay, and what that means, it's the multidimensional mathematics, but it does adjust for disease state. Okay, so if you're obese, if you have cancer, if you have this, the algorithm, you check the box, it's female, this weight, that weight, and any of the diseases they have will all roll in and adjust the noise in the body. That is why we're over 93% accurate in comparison to any other company that has tried this.
So Deborah, is there, okay, so you told me your valuation. Are you raising on a safe? Are you raising on a convertible note? What's the instrument for the raise?
We have a convertible note.
Okay.
That's a quick turn that will frankly get a 20% discount, off the round when the round closes.
Cool. All right. Awesome. All right. So let's talk a little bit about regulatory hurdles. I mean, what is left on the regulatory pathway?
We already have a 510K, and we're going back for substantial equivalence, not a full 510K, but substantial equivalence basically opens up the market to anybody with fluid management. So our product can be used and reimbursed in any situation. And so it's going to take us an extra 8 months to get there. We'll probably submit in the first half of 26. But we also know what the FDA is asking for, what are the substantial equivalent requirements they have, like 50 patients, et cetera. And I believe they're also allowing us, because they did put us through a little turnaround. They promised that they would look at our stuff first quarter before we submit it and make sure that we have all the T's crossed and the I's dotted.
So fluid management, does that expand you outside of just cardiac?
The reality is we're very focused. We're focused on the cardiac space because it's the low-hanging fruit. It is where, I had a call today about a little girl with a hole in her heart. And they said, why didn't we get this a month ago? Because we could have done something different for this little girl. And I can say I have people call me from all over the world saying, can I have this now? I'll pay for it. I don't care what it costs. I want it now. And so it's unlike any other startups I did where you had to actually sell. This is something that they absolutely need, and they can't use the Cheetahs of the world. The other competitors have tried this. They've never got over 61% accurate. Yeah. We are 93% accurate. Direct comparison to a Swan. So
let's talk a little bit about the actual process itself. Is this something that's actually prescribed? Is this something that that gets gets put on in the hospital? Like, where does the interaction take place, or what does it look like in terms of actually being used by the patient?
It takes 5 minutes, but with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mark because
Yeah.
he's been there, done it many times.
Awesome.
So this is a class 2 medical device. At the moment, it does require a physician's prescription.
Okay.
The majority, the initial rollout, it will be used both in cardiology outpatient clinics and then inpatient in basically mostly on cardiology wards. To answer your previous question, we are laser focused on heart failure at the moment, but we do have multiple other clinical indications of use for post-cardiac procedure, end-stage renal disease, dialysis patients, patients taking diuretic, and then the catch-all for any fluid management problems. But our initial low-hanging kind of fruit focus is heart failure, just due to the demand within that patient population.
All right. So, and I'm sorry, but this is going to take a little bit of education for me on the med tech
Sure.
side. So for the 510K that's already been approved, what does that give you now? Obviously, there's a continuation of that. There's an opportunity to do equivalency associated with potentially fluid management. But the 510K that you have now, what does that give you access to in terms of opportunity?
Mark, do you want to address that? I think the biggest issue is the old device, the size. You know,
Okay.
the first thing they said is you got to get it down to a portable size. And the past 3 years, that's what we've been doing. Of course,
Okay.
adjusting for quality control because you're dealing with human life. And you don't fool around with that. You make it very accurate, very quality approved, et cetera. Mark, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Des mentioned, we own the predicate, we own all of the IP, so we did not have to start from scratch, what would normally could take 10 years to go invent technology like this. That accelerated our progress. We have all the previous claims, we have all the previous algorithm. What we did was we ported it across, applied some modern DSP, and then put basically what was a DOS-based system onto a small microcontroller the size of your thumb, embedded that onto a PCB, and then put it into a modern medical grade laptop. So all of the original IP, all of the original claims, and then we're actually now using our own technology as its predicate for substantial equivalence, which allows us to go straight down the route of the 510K and accelerate our regulatory process.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay. Now that makes sense. All right. So, and there's about 8 months, you say, left on that process, ballpark?
6-8 months, correct.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about manufacturing. In terms of manufacturing, do you have a manufacturer lined up and ready to go once those approvals are done? Where is that being done? What does that look like? That kind of stuff.
All done in the United States, all taken care of in the United States. We're not releasing any technology because it is, you know, very proprietary, and there's certain countries that might steal it, and so we are careful. We keep everything very close key. Right now, this razor blade, the strips cost us about $8. We will scale that down to probably about $3. We get paid $100 on every single patient every time they use the machine. And
Okay,
so it's very profitable.
Yeah, so cost sub $10 on the high end, lower on the scale. In terms of $100, is it really $100 that's directly proportional to what's currently being done for 40,000 plus?
I would say absolutely yes. It is. It's just as accurate, but the Swan is not going to go away. Okay, because the Swan is needed to actually, when you're in surgery in the heart, it's not going to go away. But what we do is we solve a lot of the hospital problems in terms of getting paid that $40,000. They get denied on every single one because the insurance doesn't want to pay that much. Okay, if they put in our system, it'll tell them, it'll justify, and they'll never have to go through that again. Well, they probably will because it's insurance. But you know, the reality is we can make that all, you know, happen individually for each hospital.
Oh, so here's my ultimate question, I guess. So you're charging $100. It's being deployed by the physicians. What's their reimbursement rate?
135. They get contribution margin with every use they have. That's why we have paid pilots set up, because they get paid for doing the paid pilots.
Gotcha. Okay, so I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, and I understand the desire to do good and charging $100, but if the alternative methods are tens of thousands of dollars and it's $100, why not have it be worth $5,000? And that's 1/8 of what they're currently, you know, paying. So talk to me about the pricing strategy.
Okay, can I address that?
Yes, you please do.
Okay, so there's a couple of components there. This device and technology is not going to replace the Swan. There are going to be patients that require a Swan. You're going to put in Swan for some central lines and then procedures. What has begun to happen is hospitals and insurance companies have begun to shy away from the use of the Swan just due to the risk that's involved. What this technology does is a couple of things. Number one, it triages the need for a Swan. Using our technology, then you can determine, especially in the ED or somebody on the cardiology ward, whether or not they need to go to the cardiac catheterization lab. Number two, it justifies the clinician's reimbursement and it justifies the insurance reimbursement that goes along with that. The second part is for the number of days that a patient is in ICU, even if they have a central line put in place, you can remove the central line 1 to 2 days early, apply our technology, get the patient out of ICU into a step-down unit and save those days that you would need, and then potentially go and reduce the level of hospital days. So that's an insurance play as well. So what you're doing is you're benefiting the clinicians because you're justifying if they need a more invasive procedure. Those patients that don't need to go, because the second you go from the ED and admit the patient into the hospital, that changes the entire reimbursement structure. You can justify the need either for the admission to send them home and then the delay in actually going from ICU into a step-down unit to a regular ward. So there's multiple components of either revenue gain, revenue justification, or revenue savings, both for the clinician, the institution, and the insurance company as well.
All right, so it actually just provides a lot more information that makes it easier to diagnose and justify more invasive procedures. Okay, gotcha.
Or eliminate the need for it when it would be unnecessary,
that's
and
right.
insurance companies may not pay for it.
Exactly.
That's right. And so, yeah, that's right. So it provides data on whether or not you should do it. And then it's better data that makes the reimbursement easier to get based on the data. Okay. Oh, it's awesome. Awesome. All right. All right. So you've raised just over 7 million. You're looking for a $5 million bridge. How much is the burn, monthly burn?
Right now, probably about 70.
70K. Okay.
Keep in mind, we're going to have more coming up because of the tests that we have to pay for from outside consultants.
Sure.
So.
And then what does the future raise look like? So how much money is it going to take to bring this product completely to market, you think?
Right now, about $3 million. Okay, that'll get us through, and it'll actually get us launched in the hospital market. Now, keep in mind, once you go into the, I had Procter & Gamble experience. That's where I started my career, and the consumer market is very, very expensive to do. Okay, and it's night and day difference. But we've learned from the glucose monitoring, Dexcom. Dexcom started with a strategy where they just hit physicians. Okay, and it failed. Basically, they had 3 years of sitting there with almost revenue because they didn't pay the doctors. The doctors, like glucose, they can fix that themselves. The patient can fix it themselves. In our situation, they can't. Okay, so now they would get paid for when the signal comes in and tells them, hey, this patient is getting their biometrics in the 15 different spots that they're analyzing. Those biometrics are changing. They're going to have a heart failure. It's not like it may happen. The body's preparing for it. Okay, we've identified 15 points in the body where the biometrics are all filtered on a heart pump by pump basis every time the heart beats. And provides the critical information. And more important, it tells the doctor what to do. Okay, they have to guess now by weighing themselves.
Right,
okay?
right.
And so,
Just basically they weigh themselves. If there's unusual fluid or unusual increase in weight, they assume it's due to fluid and then they move into the next process.
Absolutely. And we let them know the process. Most of the doctors that have tested the unit said it needs to be a new vital sign. Because we put blood pressure to it, and we can do that. It's all a matter of where we can make the most money and where we can help them save the most lives.
Okay, so already, and I'm Dr. Mark, I know you mentioned this already. And reimbursement codes are already in the system. Everything, nothing new has to be done there for reimbursements.
Correct.
Okay, cool. All right. Next question, I guess, is. So we saw you about a year ago. I was looking up the last time we saw you. Talk to me about what the last year has looked like.
Actually, it's been very exciting, mainly because we've been getting a tremendous number of doctors accepting. And the only problem we have with that is they're calling on a regular basis For example, Piedmont Hospital is one of our, we have 27 hospitals to roll out there and 90 clinics. And all over us, our advocate physician left and went to another hospital, and we had 8 cardiologists call us up. And then at the end of it, we asked them who wants to be our new physician advocate, and all 8 of the cardiologists raised their hand. They wanted to be the advocate to get this involved in the startup. So, Mark, do you want to update up from a technology perspective? Because I know you made tremendous strides.
Yeah, one of the things that we're looking at the moment is the incorporation of AI into this system. So one of the biggest questions that we always get from physicians is, what next? How do I go and use this amazing data and then fold it into my practice? So what we're busy doing at the moment is the initial stages of building a machine learning algorithm that would basically take a revolving database from PubMed every month, the hemodynamic data, and the best state-of-the-art treatment algorithm. So if you have a 6-year-old African-American female with heart failure, she also has COPD, and you've already tried beta treatment regimen for that individual patient based on real-time hemodynamics, and combining all of those components and then developing the logic gate and then the ML model, and then rolling in an AI component that we will be including in the next generation of this. So the aspects of what we're doing right now and how we're going to move this technology forward.
Is Mark breaking up for everybody?
Yeah, he is breaking up a little bit. All right, so we've got 30 seconds, Deborah. So I've just got really 2 quick questions. The first one,
Sure.
I don't think it'll take very long. What's the biggest hurdle to getting getting actual product in those 8 cardiologists' hands that raised their hand? What's the problem? Is it the FDA approval?
The FDA, what they did to us, and they actually felt very sorry. They switched our reviewer many times. They changed us from a special to a 510K because they didn't have the bandwidth, and then the administration changed, and I think they feel really bad about it. And so they are reviewing every single thing and they're reviewing it before we submit.
Okay,
So
and then
our chances of submission is significantly higher.
great, thanks, Deborah. And then we're out of time, but just a really quick question: what does an exit look like in this business?
Well, we've been approached already, Johnson & Johnson. We're at 15 million. I told them it would be 500 million minimum. But the reality is we could take this to a multi-billion-dollar level. I've been to many countries, Brazil, Singapore, and throughout Europe. And they all are willing to take on the product because it provides such, in essence, a jump start to saving lives and anything in the heart failure issue.
Well, Deborah, thank you very much for joining us today. Dr. Mark, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. You can stop sharing, and then Jeff will introduce our next company. Thank you very much for joining us. And
I would like to thank you all for your time and for listening to us. And let's get this together and make Nevada a new Silicon Valley, and hire all those people and make it happen, guys.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Or I'm sorry, is Daniel rejoining? One moment. Okay, so Daniel's rejoining the Zoom. Make sure when you do join that you've got the microphone and speakers off. While he's getting connected to Zoom, I'll do just a couple of announcements. First, our next pitch day is going to be 2 weeks from tonight. It'll be the week after Thanksgiving because we got Thanksgiving next week, and happy Thanksgiving to everybody, by the way. Then after that one, we're going to be taking a few weeks off, and we will be restarting again during CES week. So we'll be doing our next pitch day after that one during CES week next year. Those of you who are in this facility with us today, we are now the operators of it. Our landlord is still the City of Las Vegas. They own the facility, but we are operating it now. So we are getting a little bit more aggressive about getting folks to come in and use it as a co-working space and rent some of the lovely offices we have open. So for the folks who are here, you can see it. For the folks who are not here and are on Zoom, if you're in Las Vegas and you're looking for a co-working space or a place to hold an event, here in our room or any one of our 4 or 5 conference rooms, please check us out at the International Innovation Center in downtown Las Vegas. at 300 South 4th Street, right at the corner of 4th and Lewis, or 4th and, yeah, 4th and Lewis is the corner to get to. How are we doing on joining? There's only so much more I can pedal.
Are you not dancing yet?
If you've got something to say, Leaf, you can say it. I've got some stuff to talk about. I got some fun stuff to talk about too. It's also fun, but it's also fun. I'll mention a couple of other fundraising things from our venture funds. Both Fund NV and 1864 we want to close out both of those venture funds by the end of the first quarter of next year. So any investors out there who liked all of that stuff that I was talking about up at the top of our meeting here, where we've invested $14 million and it's now worth a little under $50 million. You like that kind of a return and you want to join our team and invest some money with us, please check us out on you can get to us by going through startupnv.org and saying I'm an investor and then booking some time with me. You can also get to us through both of our fund websites, 1864.fund and fundnv.com. Fundnv.com is a $2 million pre-seed fund that invests $100,000 each in 20 companies, just like the ones that we're talking to tonight. The way that works is people pitch here on pitch day. Our LPs and our investment committee takes a look at that. If we like the company and we think it's interesting, we'll invite the founder back in to answer a whole bunch of more questions than we're asking them tonight. Tonight's just a little bit of what the founders ultimately end up going through before Fund NV will make an investment. And if the Q&A goes well, then we do a whole lot of due diligence, which usually takes another few weeks to get it done. And then once the due diligence is done, we've got all of the documents to sign and the funding to get done. Once we've funded our initial $100,000, we go out to our syndicate. We write a deal memo. We ask our LPs in the fund to say, hey, we're investing 100 grand. Do you guys want to join us and double down a little bit? Almost always they do, which is why we call it pitch day for 500K, even though the fund only puts in 100K. Generally, our LPs invest a whole bunch more money, and then we take that whole pot of money that we invest from the fund and our LPs add to the mix, and then that whole amount gets matched by the Governor's Office of Economic Development SSBCI program. So while our average investment since 2021 has been $500,000, if you look at our more recent investments, they're actually much closer to $1 million based on the SSBCI matching and everything else. All right, Daniel, are you back online again? All right, so come on up. We'll get you to start sharing your slides, and I'll just pass him my microphone. All right, hang on, you're not on mic yet. You will be soon, as you put, and just stick that on the lapel, and you should be good to go. Take it away whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much, Jeff. A little bit of technical difficulty, but I think we got through that. Let me get my slides all happy here. Slideshow. Okay, I think we have technically achieved to get up here. Good afternoon, good evening. I'm Daniel Lindgren. I'm the co-founder and chief executive officer of Evoke Technologies. Evoke Technologies is a company that's been around for 4 years. It's from our spin out of OcuScience, which was around for 20 years before that. So we've built some very robust technologies. And today I'm going to talk about one specific area of our particular technology, and that's looking at the ability for our systems to detect early diseases of the eye, have ways of acting early so we can actually be preventative and protect vision for a lifetime. Now, how are we going to do that? Well, let's first talk a little bit about what's the problem we're addressing here. Right now in ophthalmology, standard imaging misses the earliest signs of retinal diseases. And that is because They have to wait for damage to occur before they can actually see something in the image. And vision loss is a very huge problem here in the United States and worldwide. Irreversible tissue damage occurs before retinal imaging can detect the disease. We're letting damage occur, and letting this damage occur before we intervene is later intervention. And that later intervention right now, the way our current system is set up, costs us $134 billion a year in the United States alone. And functional testing exposes these early signs of disease and enables proactive diagnosis and care. We have the ability to see these diseases in the retina before damage, years before, 3 to 5 years. It creates a golden window of opportunity for us to intervene with either lifestyle changes, therapeutics, and other types of monitoring that help guide the patient through what they can do to actually preserve their vision for a lifetime. There's also another really compounding problem we've got going on here in the United States and worldwide. The eye care specialist is in very, very short supply. In fact, the number of ophthalmologists here in the United States is actually going down over the next few years because people retire. And the number of schools that are bringing through the schools has been relatively flat. And what's going on at the same time? We got a big problem with age-related macular degeneration and diabetes, which is putting an even heavier load on the system than it is now. And what we need to do is need to figure out how we can get the patient and get to diagnostic tools at scale beyond just the specialist. How can they get help before they actually have such an amount of vision loss that then they need to see a specialist? We want to catch it earlier. We want to catch it earlier by deploying our technology further out and then before when it comes to functional testing of the eye. And we want to put these things into the optometrist office. You go there primarily for optometrists for your annual eyeglass change and checkup, but there's also an opportunity to conduct certain types of screening tests to really monitor you at a certain period of time to make sure that there's no underlying pathology. And functional home monitoring. This is the real front that we want to go to. We want to put devices in the hands of the patients in their home so they can conveniently monitor themselves. Much like KardioMobile does for the heart, we plan to do the same for the eye. The solution, our ecosystem of early detection diagnostics tools. We don't have just one, but we have several products that actually fit on the same platform. They all interoperate. They all provide this data at an aggregated level and allows us to do things that collect data in a very simple manner using a biosensor that sticks to the skin, passes that data onto the mobile device. The mobile device will then pass it onto the cloud does the analysis, and then sends the results to the provider as well as access to the patient. This aggregated data now creates a real opportunity for us to use AI-powered functional analytics. We're creating the first functional data set for ophthalmology that's going to be global. Our portfolio pipeline for detection, diagnostics, and monitoring for a lifetime, they run across several different products. And first, I'm going to talk about Twilight, the dark adaptometer. As a Class 1 medical device, as you can see there, I have Q4 2025. We're imminent for our Class 1 registration and device listing. And I was hopefully going to be able to tell you that we got it done today. Next few days, the government's still opening up. Things are a little slow, but it's imminent for us to happen. And then we're going to follow up with another product called the Smart ERG. So let me tell you a little bit about those technologies. The dark adaptometry test measures your ability for night vision. How well do you see at night? This is when the retina is working its hardest. And this is the time that we test it. And we want to see how well your age is able to go from a lit condition to a dim condition and be able to adjust accordingly. Then we have the Smart ERG, which is that after you say, oh, I have retinal dysfunction, the Smart ERG is now even a deeper dive diagnostic where the optometrist and ophthalmologist, the eye care provider can then differentiate what is the cause of that retinal dysfunction. And then we follow up with the Gleam. Gleam is a full field stimulating test, and that's really designed for people with severe impaired vision now. They need to have a tool that allows them to monitor the residual vision they have. And we have the ability to do that for them. So we give them the ability to see if the therapeutics are having any positive effect, as well as we are creating an endpoint, a therapeutic endpoint for the different new therapeutics that are coming along that are meant to help these patients who have night vision loss, diabetic retinopathy, age-related macular degeneration, and other inherited retinal diseases. And then lastly, excuse me, we have this thing, it's called a dark adaptation pod. We actually started that. It sounds like a very basic thing, but we built a black box. It's a portal box. You can put it in the corner of your office and it creates a perfect dark adaptation environment. So we are really doing some of the most basic things to facilitate this really basic type of testing that's really robust and really powerful. Okay, how it works. Step one, when you connect to the body, and then we then have that connected to the console, we run the test. This is where we're using our biosensor to capture proprietary functional data. That data gets automatically uploaded to the SightGuard platform, either through Wi-Fi or even wirelessly through our devices. You can detect, and from there, SightGuard can detect the subtle changes in the retina health and follow up with additional diagnostics to really differentiate the diagnosis. And then through SightGuard, we share that data to the provider and to the patient. The patient has access to their data. They can longitudinally monitor themselves, and nobody's going to pay more closer attention to that data than the patient who has visual impairment. Market opportunity, it's huge. 7 million people are visually impaired and definitely have a definitive need for some product like we have for Gleam. 35 million are those who have retinal diseases that have already progressed and need to be monitored and have a clearer diagnosis and intervention. And then there's 57 million people who have retinal dysfunction and don't even know about it. And the reason we know that there's that many people is because we're projected to have literally a doubling of the people with retinal diseases and blindness over in 2050. So this is the pool we can focus on and do something about before 2050 rolls around and we've doubled that number. We can do something about this. Okay, our business model and return on investment. We have basically three parts in our pricing. We have the hardware, disposables, and our DAS, our diagnostics as a service. And basically the hardware has a console, a photostimulator, and you can purchase that on a one-time purchase basis or as a lease. And then of course there's a disposable for each time they do an examination. There's a cost for the kit that goes with that. And then flexible plans each month for different size tiers and practices. And you can see I have an example at the bottom here where this is the most basic type of sale for us. This is a single doctor practice. And we have that doctor who's going to buy this at a lease because, want to keep their capital expenditures as low as possible because they have a new practice, for example. $4,979 plus if they did 2 exams a day, 20 times for 20 days a month for 12 months a year, that's 480 exams. That's almost nothing. But that's about a $4,800 cost in disposables. And then overall the time for those 12 months for our subscriptions, another $1,548. Well, what's it all mean? That means that Evoke Technologies is going to make $11,327 each year from that single doctor practice. And if you look at what that does for the doctor's practice, it's even more phenomenal. Because it only costs them $11,000, but they're able to actually bill this through different CPT codes from ranging from $58 to our other devices could be $130 for those 480 exams. You can see there's amazing return on investment. It's my time. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, guys. I kind of blew past that a little bit too much.
Yeah, no worries, Daniel. Why don't you do this? Why don't you just flip ahead to your Ask slide and we'll start there. And then we'll come back and cover some of the other stuff.
Thank you. Okay, can do that.
And while we're here, let me ask this question quickly. Your team here, who is actually full-time?
So of my team here, I have 3 people who are absolutely, 4 people that are full-time. Myself, my chief of quality and risk, my product engineering, and my director of operations.
And what's your current burn?
$30,000.
30,000 a month, okay. And on your deal itself, let's say you're raising 4 million on a say $55 million valuation, 10% discount. Your class one is pending, but any day now, right? And when that class one comes in, what does that mean in terms of your go-to-market? Can you begin selling your initial SiteGuard product immediately?
Yes, that is absolutely true. We can sell the Twilight and on the SiteGuard platform immediately. We've already had several events that we've had where we've promoted the product for clinical studies at our major meetings, like American Academy of Ophthalmology. And so we've already built a pretty robust list of interested doctors who are ready to, come back and purchase this.
Okay. All right. So you're raising $4 million. You got a $55 million cap, 10% discount. You're raising on a safe. Your plan for use of funds is to build out your sales and marketing team, platform and patient portals. All right. So let me ask you this question. So is the product ready to go to market, or is there additional things that need to be done? Like could doctors, if your class one came in tomorrow, could you contact a doctor and they could begin using it? Or what is that? What is the lead time associated with that? You got to make stuff, build stuff, refine stuff. Where are you?
I have 20 units ready to deploy.
Okay.
I'm putting those in pilot locations. I have 2 already located here in Las Vegas and many more. The way I've been working this out, because we don't have the actual class 1 medical devices that allow them to use it in their practice, is basically a multi-day, a 30-day evaluation plan. So they will get in their hands. We've been deploying it, training their technicians. So now that we are getting into this 30 days, and once the FDA, we get fully accepted, we can then actually do the transactions.
So those who are doing your initial, pilots or trials, are they, if you called and said, we have our class 1, are they going to all convert?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think it's, yes.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that there's a lot of intellectual curiosity about this technology for doctors, because it's something that is actually going to do something that allows them to be proactive and not reactive. And then it also really creates an opportunity in the revenue streams, so you can do something really good for their patient, as well as it's economically very positive for their clinic.
Right. All right. So based on the fact that you're waiting on your class 1, you're pre-revenue, so there's no revenue so far, correct?
We have a little bit of revenue coming in for a few different sites that are buying them for research purposes.
Gotcha. Okay, so there's a little bit there. All right. So in terms of your go-to-market, you talk about here building the initial sales and marketing team. What does the go-to-market look like for you? I mean, do you send people in to meet with the doctors and educate them? Are you using some sort of traditional, rep program or outside reps? What does it look like? What does your go-to-market look like, and how do doctors find out?
Well, right now our go-to-market is regionalized. So we're staying within Nevada and Southern California, and we're using our lead list that we develop over time. And
so right now it's Daniel. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes.
It's you. That's right. Yeah. So right now you're building your customer list.
It's absolutely me until we get $4 million and I can build out the rest of the sales team. But it's going to be my primary responsibility to go place these units, get the customer happy, and make sure they're deploying it to their patients.
Great. How much money has been put into the business so far?
So we have an investment of $250,000 from external. Everything else that's been created thus far has been basically from our capital acquisition from our spinoff. Basically, OcuScience spun off Evoke Technology as its own company. So there's a lot of money that's been spent over the last 20 years in building the basic technology.
Okay, so and from an IP perspective, is all of that money spun into Evoke? I mean, all of that IP in Evoke, or is there still some license agreement, royalty agreement, or anything else with the parent company?
That's a great question. Actually, that was one of the first things that we did, is we wanted to make sure we had a very clean separation between OcuScience and Evoke Technologies, and that there's no lingering relationship between the two. It's very clean, because our intent, of course, is ultimately for an exit. We want to make sure we started with those things in mind.
Do they have any equity or anything for the spin out? I guess what I'm trying to figure out mentally is, why take all of this invested research and time, spin it out into an external company? Like what do they get for that?
So it basically, they are getting a payment and a loan.
Okay.
And it's something that has a pretty open period of time, but
Okay.
it's a cash payment that's going to go back to OcuScience. But more importantly, the OcuScience Evoke Technologies was simply to have that relationship. So it's a very clean, separate company and no residual relationships or liabilities. So
they spun out Evoke, provided some cash maybe, and then also the technology. It was set up as a separate company. Is any of the $4 million that's being raised going to pay back the loan, or what's the payback look? You said it was kind of open-ended. What's the payback look like on the loan?
We haven't paid back
it?
on it actually. Yeah, so it's the open balance is somewhere right around 50,000. It's not a lot of money.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about hardware, because if you don't mind, flip back to the screen where you had the pricing models for the physicians and everything else. You had several different.
Oh, sure. The return on investment.
Yeah.
Sure.
So there was. This is it. Yeah, this one right here. Okay, so there's hardware itself, the photo stimulator, the wearable biosensor. It also seemed like you were sending something home with the people as well. Is there an app, or is that actually what's happening there?
That's a great question. So Twilight, the dark adaptometer, the class 1 medical device, is designed to be deployed through the clinic.
Okay.
It also can be deployed to the home via the physician as a prescription. So they can actually have this set up so they can send the device home as a monitor as well. We have the ability and design to build a just home unit, not a clinic unit, but just basically an app that you download on your phone, and then having our proprietary photo stimulator basically mass manufactured for home use.
Okay. All right. So the real strategy, at least initially, is you've got the wearable biosensor, the console, and the photo stimulator. That's the hardware that they use, that they have to either acquire or lease. There are some disposables, and then they pay a subscription for the software that actually analyzes the data.
Correct.
Awesome. All right. Now let me look here on you were about to say, and then you started moving quickly because I think you saw the time. What were the revenue numbers, or what could the practice generate in terms of, let's say the practice ROI is between 145 and 450% with 480 exams per year. Okay, that's what you were getting at there. Now, how are these tests currently being done?
So they're currently being done in a room that's designated to them for doing dark adaptation.
Okay.
Our device allows us, because of its design, and it basically has a light blocking mask that can be used anywhere. It allows us to be actually able to deploy it into the waiting room. So it really opens up the workflow integration for almost every practice. So they can choose where it's best fit in their practice.
So are they currently having to dedicate a space inside the facility for this particular test?
Yeah, if they're doing the dark adaptation testing, they'll do it in a dedicated. Say, for example, my little dark adaptation pod, that would be one example, but our home unit doesn't need that. It can be deployed anywhere.
And these rooms, what percentage of physicians or eye doctors are using or have one of these deployed? Any idea?
Oh, very small percentage. I'd say less than 1% of the whole market. Let's
So
say
you're saying these tests aren't really
United
being
States,
done.
about 40,000. There's probably in the vicinity of 1,000 to 2,000 locations that currently provide that dark adaptation testing.
Okay. So you're saying a lot of them, frankly, just aren't doing the test because they don't have the facility to do it.
They do not have the equipment. They don't have really the knowledge, and really the standard of care has always been focusing on imaging, and the questions being asked about early detection are really things that are just starting to occur. Even AAO, just the American Academy of Ophthalmology, just recently put in their literature a very interesting article about changing the use of ERG or ERG technology with diabetic retinopathy in association with OCT. the AAO is just coming around to accepting and promoting electrophysiology as part of the preferred practice program. So this is why things are happening now. It's not why I wasn't doing it 10 years ago, because we would have been running into a brick wall. Now is the opportunity.
Cool. All right. So what about, let's see here. All right. CPT codes already exist. You've shown that. Just curious, what is the reimbursement?
So as you can see on the bottom right, the Twilight dark adaptometry
Yeah.
is a $58 CPT, and
Okay.
ERGs is $130.
Okay. And so a lot of the doctors aren't doing the test because they don't have the facility to do the test or the equipment to do the test. In the physicians that you're currently working with in your pilots, this is something they want to add to their practice?
Yes.
And is literally the equipment or limitations on that the biggest issue?
Having access to the equipment has been a big part of this. Leith, I'd also mention that there was a competitor product that was in the market that was making some traction a few years ago, but they didn't survive COVID. They financially did not have a good plan, and they ultimately dropped out of the business. And so they left an opportunity here as well. And that was a major reason why 12 months ago, even though I've been working on smart ERG for multiple years, I made the pivot to go to the dark adaptometry because there's a demand, and we have a product that actually is better than what was previously available. And that's why we as a company made the pivot.
Okay. And so that company went out of business. Did they actually get much traction before they shut down because of COVID?
Yes, they were. They were actually making fairly good traction. The unfortunate part is they took a very large venture debt and had to pay it back within 2 years after in 2022. And they did not have from COVID, they didn't have enough revenue generation to actually be able to pay off the loan, unfortunately for them.
Great. Okay. So we're out of time, but I want to ask just 2 more quick questions. One is, Daniel, what does this company look like for an exit, right? So is this a company that gets acquired by someone else that's in the optometrist distribution equipment business? Like, what does it look like?
I definitely think that we're looking at a strategic, because strategics are going to see the benefit. They're going to see the opportunity of marrying our proprietary functional data set with their imaging database to build a very robust AI solution. We give them the ability to look and find patients sooner and earlier than what they've been able to do previously. And now the large strategics are realizing the opportunity is in the treatment. And so Alcon, Alessero Luxottica, and other companies are all developing treatments that are designed to be used before you have structural damage. And we will find those patients for those strategics using our device.
Great. And then my last question is, you've got 20 devices ready to go. You're going to get your class 1 any day. If it comes in tomorrow, Daniel, how fast are those 20 units deployed that generate $100K in revenue relatively quickly if everyone buys the equipment?
By end of year.
Okay. Awesome. Daniel, thank you so much. Appreciate your pitch today. Deborah, thanks for staying on as well. And Jeff, I'll throw it to you.
Thank you, everyone.
Let me grab up the microphone back from you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Back to me. Since I spent a little bit of time talking about the funds, I'm not going to talk about them again, except to say if you're interested in them, we'd sure like to hear from you. Both Fund NV is finishing its raise in Q1, and 1864 is finishing its raise in Q1. So look forward to hearing from some of you who like to invest in these wonderful startups that pitch to us every couple of weeks. So the way you find out more about it is you can go to either one of the fund websites, fundnv.com, 1864.fund, or to startupnv.org, and you can get to us that way. Thanks to both thanks to Deborah, Mark, and Daniel for the presentations this evening, and really appreciate your going through the process to get here. Thanks also to our team. Thanks to Leith for stepping out of our room here and going in the next room so we didn't mess up all the acoustics on the microphones and the speakers. I'm sure he'll be working his way back to us any minute now. And thanks to all the folks at Startup NV that make these pitch days possible every 2 weeks. And thanks also to our investors who are going to be, if they aren't here online tonight, that they'll be watching this later. Would appreciate it if everybody would give us a follow on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, X, and Instagram. We're most active on LinkedIn and YouTube, but we do go on all those other sites as well. Thanks again to the founders and to the attendees for coming out tonight. Thanks for putting all the questions in the chat so that Leith could ask them. Thanks to our investor group. And I hope you'll be back here in 2 weeks, just after Thanksgiving, for the next pitch day where 2 additional Nevada startups will pitch. Until then, take care of yourself, and if you can, someone else too. We'll see you back here in a fortnight.